So, for the past couple of weeks or so, there's been news, essentially, of the documentary called Vaxxed. Now, if you're in probably the lucky and vast majority of people, you probably have no idea what this documentary is. Well, this documentary called Vaxxed is by a certain person called Andrew Wakefield, formerly Dr. Andrew Wakefield, who, way back in 1997, said and published a paper that there was a link between MMR and autism. That paper has since been pulled to shreds. He's been thoroughly discredited. He's been delicensed because of what he did, and we'll get into that later. But again, we've already had people coming out of reviews and actual scientists go to see this film and say this is nothing new. When the film finally comes out, or at least when I can sort of view it without having to give this guy any money, because quite frankly, I don't want to give this guy any money whatsoever. So I will be watching it, or shall we say, legally, in quotation marks, watching it. But already I can see how this documentary is going to go. Wakefield's going to set him up as himself as the authority. And then, of course, you're going to have the usual testimonials from parents of, my child was fine, and then he got the autism vaccine, and then he got then he got the MMR jab, and he got autism. Okay, we've said this hundreds, thousands of times on this channel. The reason why that happens, when children get the MMR vaccine, is also around that exact same time, is when, surprise, surprise, the first signs and the symptoms of autism will actually start to appear, because before that a child's cognitive abilities and reasonings are not sufficiently built up to be able to detect it. That's what happens. And again, we've been through this hundreds and thousands of times, and yet again they'll cry and the big smoking gun at the moment is China. Oh, look what's happening in China. They've got this mass, vaccination MMR program that are, bringing on autism. Guess what? It's the first time they are doing this vaccination program. And guess what? It's also the first time that they're actually checking for autism. A big claim at the end of the trailer is that there's going to be this mass increase in autism. Well, first of all, they don't mention sort of the autism spectrum. If you know anything about sort of autism, or sort of the autism spectrum, again, you can look it up online. You'll know that autism can affect you from being sort of really mild to not at all to, to really severe. So there's this massive spectrum that it can affect people on. Some people go through their lives and they are mildly autistic, but it never affects their daily lives, routine, whatever. To, again, the other end of the spectrum, where they have to have constant, 24-hour care. And again, the big thing is, again, they don't seem to mention the trailer. I'll be interested to see if they actually mention it in the movie, is that, again, that they use United States statistics. Now, again, what's happening in the United States? Population increase. What happens if you're giving, again, if you take that into account, what are you going to see? Well, if there are more people being born, of course you're going to see more autism cases. Again, I want to see if even that basic piece of information is going to be brought up, because in the trailer they do not make it seem that way, and if they don't bring that up in the actual film, and that's going to be hilarious, because again, we've had sort of this, MMR jab causes autism since around about 1997, and Andrew Wakefield is pretty much the progenitor of this. Remember, this guy owns a mansion in Austin, Texas, because of the money he's made off these absolutely gullible people buying into his bullshit. Now, I said at the beginning, there is a critical thing that I guarantee the documentary will leave out, and that is why Andrew Wakefield was discredited and delicensed. Now, if you want to go watch the documentary, the MMR jab, what they didn't tell you, there was an investigative journalist way back just after it came out. He did an episode for I think it was Panorama, I can't remember if it was Dispatches. But yeah, he did a segment on this and basically uncovered why Andrew Wakefield, again, got discredited, why he got disbarred. You know why he got delicensed? Let's go way back. Andrew Wakefield was paid by a law firm because this law firm wanted to prove a link between vaccination jabs and autism. And they paid him to go and find that out. And throughout the whole thing, Andrew Wakefield was fudging the numbers. One of his research colleagues came out and said, you know, in that investigation, when he came forward to, you know, Andrew and said, hey, you're saying this, but my numbers aren't coming back and saying that, Dr. Wakefield got incredibly annoyed to a point where they ignored all his research and continued with their own, that, you know, MMR causes autism. Now, of course, he was being funded massively by this. Not only that, he was also found to be investing in companies that were going to benefit from this. So, sort of like autism medicine, which is, again, doesn't work. And again, he was also doing, again, research with a guy who wasn't even a doctor, right? This guy he's considered to be an absolute, you know, quack and a lunatic. And again, he's interviewed in the expose as well, and it's absolutely insane. This guy is insane. And again, you cannot, you know, I'm going to try and find it on YouTube because I'm pretty sure it's on YouTube. I'm going to leave a link, and if you are like 100%, you think that, you know, Andrew Wakefield is like some sort of godlike saint, then watch this document, you watch this expose on him, and then come back and tell me that he's a saint. Because I get told time and time again that doctors, you know, CDC, whatever, are, you know, fudging the numbers. They're paying people to, you know, scientists to, you know, fudge numbers to show that their vaccines are safe. Well, guess what? Andrew Wakefield, your saint and saviour, was paid by a law firm to show that vaccines were not safe. And he fudged the numbers to do this. Andrew Wakefield does everything the anti-vax crowd say that the you know, big pharma are doing. And yet they have no qualms, no criticism about him, because they have a bias. And it's really bad when you really get to the core of it, because they want someone to blame for their child's autism. And at the end of the day, I really think there's a deep-seated, they can't accept that their child has autism. And that's really sad. So, yeah. Vaxxed. Hopefully we'll get to doing a review of it soon. I am not looking forward to it, but I know I have to do it. So, yeah. I'll also find a link to that expose because I'm pretty sure it's on YouTube.